It's time now to talk American football on the Monday edition of the SportsMax Zone. In the National Football League showpiece game on Sunday, the title of Super Bowl 59 champions was emphatically snatched by the Philadelphia Eagles after their 40-22 demolition of the Kansas City Chiefs, who failed in their bid to become the first team to win 3 consecutive Super Bowl titles. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts was crowned Super Bowl MVP after an exceptional performance, completing 17 of 22 passes for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also rushing for 72 yards on 11 carries and 1 touchdown, which was the most rushing yards by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. Here's Hurts after the victory.
It's been a long journey. It's been a journey of ups and downs and highs and lows, and I've always stayed true to it in the end, and having this vision of just being the best that I can be, and that evolving over time into this desire and this flame inside to win. And you don't do great things without the guys around you. So the effort, the work, always leaning on that, trusting in that, and trusting the process, and staying the course, and sticking to the script.
Meanwhile, it was a less than stellar performance for the 3-time champion Patrick Mahomes, who was under duress for what seemed like the entire game, throwing 2 interceptions while being sacked 6 times throughout the defeat. Mahomes shared his thoughts on the difficult game.
They played great. There's no way around it. I mean, they played great from start to finish. They got after it. Defensive line played really well. The DBs played well to complement them, and linebackers as well. And so, like I said, I mean, I can't turn the ball over early in the game when it's not going our way, and I'll have to learn from that and try to be better the next opportunity that I hopefully get.
So, sweet revenge for Hurts and the Eagles, who lost to the Mahomes-led Chiefs in Super Bowl 57. Let's get our analyst in on this discussion. He is usually talking football of the soccer variety, but today he is the American football expert for a lot of other reasons, including the fact that he was in New Orleans on Sunday watching the game. Most of the bookmakers, Simon, going into the game had labeled the Kansas City Chiefs the favorites, not massive favorites, but the favorites. So this was an upset of sorts, partly too because of how lopsided the game was in the end.
Yeah, I think it's that really. I had a feeling beforehand when people asked me what my prediction was, I thought the Eagles would win, but narrowly. You know, nobody expected it to be, 24-0 at halftime. No one expected the Chiefs to be completely nullified. Patrick Mahomes, in the first half, I think he had about 30 yards of passing offense, and they really just couldn't get going at all. And the Eagles delivered their game plan, executed it absolutely perfectly, and there was nothing the Chiefs could do about it, really. I mean, the scoreline in the end reflects, some late touchdowns that the Chiefs got when the game was all over. Really, it was never a 20-point game. It was an absolute thrashing.
Yeah, and obviously Hurts, as the Super Bowl MVP, it would suggest that his performance played a major role in the result. But how major was that?
Yeah, I think it obviously was important because, before the game, all the talk was about Philadelphia's rushing game, their running of the ball, particularly with their running back Saquon Barkley, who's broken records almost every week this season. He's been absolutely outstanding. So the question for a lot of analysts was, can they stop the Philadelphia run? Well, they did that, really. They limited Barkley, but in doing so, they really didn't have an answer then to the passing game. And I think what people weren't quite sure about was if it becomes that kind of game where it is a passing game for Philadelphia, was Hurts good enough? Was his arm good enough to pass them to victory? And we got a very resounding answer to that. Yes, it was.
Yeah, a part of the American narrative in sports coverage, Simon, as you would well know, is these exciting stories developing over who is the GOAT and, greatest of all time. Mahomes is in that conversation, or he has been in that conversation. How much would yesterday's below par performance by him hurt his status?
Well, I think he still had some way to go, even if he'd have won, to catch up with Tom Brady's, 7 Super Bowls. and the Chiefs had some way to go to catch up with the New England Patriots in the whole legacy dynasty debate that Americans, as you say, do love. But I think it did tarnish a little bit legacies yesterday. I think the answer to your question is really it depends how the Chiefs bounce back from that. But the way they performed this season, they were never at the level this season. They were winning games narrowly, late by 3 points. They were never at the level that they've been in the previous 2 or 3 years. So big question mark is what kind of Chiefs come back next season. Andy Reid, very experienced coach. Mahomes is only 29, which is still pretty young for a quarterback. So there's time for him to repair whatever damage was done last night.
Yeah, and as a horse racing man, Simon, I like to follow the odds, and I noted that heading into the conference finals, the Eagles, when they were projecting a Super Bowl odds, were slightly favorites, but that switched after the conference finals. Why would that have been?
Yeah, I don't know, because, I mean, the Chiefs in the conference final absolutely battered the Washington Commanders. And that running game was just so powerful. I mean, they had 7 rushing touchdowns, 3 for Hurts and 3 for Barkley. And that's been their key to their success this season, really, until last night, was the fact that they had a quarterback who can run and the best running back in the league. So you stop one and the other one's going to come at you. It's very, very difficult and very unusual situation. But they played conventional football last night. I mean, you look at what they did on defense, where they were really, really effective at stopping Kansas City doing anything, and Mahomes couldn't get into his stride at all. They didn't do anything revolutionary. They didn't do anything that was, what the Americans would call a gimmick scheme or anything like that. They just did a very routine defensive scheme, but executed it absolutely perfectly.
Yeah, and it turned out in a very lopsided result. But, one of the things people look forward to an NFL final has to be that halftime show, and everybody's talking about it, Simon, throughout the lead up. There are people like around me who doesn't even understand the NFL, but they're going out to all these watch parties and everything to see that halftime show. Were you impressed with what you saw?
I'm not sure it was targeted at me necessarily. I do actually. I mean, it sounds very pretentious if I said that I liked Kendrick Lamar's first 2 albums much more than his more recent stuff. But he is, I think, a very intelligent and smart musician. And his early albums, he was sampling music from, the past, soul music and jazz music, and it gave him a very unique sound, which I think he's lost a little bit. But yeah, you see Serena dancing there. Yeah. I think for the fans, for the people it was aimed at, which is maybe not people like me, I think they all thought it was great. The young people sat around me thought it was fantastic. The Super Bowl halftime show always gets some debate, and in America, with all the political aspects to it as well, there's always going to be huge discussion about these things. But I think, for what he does, he did it very well.
Yeah, Simon, can you please just analyze, because this is really why we brought you on the show, can you analyze Serena Williams' performance for us, please? The dancing performance, that is.
I thought the dancing was very impressive. Yeah, I thought it was, she looked sharp. But, the context of that whole beef with Drake, please don't ask me to go into that, though, because I'm not going anywhere near that one.
Well, we don't want to get a lawsuit, and we don't want you to get one, which is why we're asking you about Serena's dancing and if it matches up to her Grand Slam tennis play.
Not quite, but I thought it was pretty cool, though. No, it looked good. She was enjoying herself, and you could tell. I saw some clips of her warming up for it, and she was taking it seriously. And she's going out in front of a global audience to do that. Fair play,
And she looked pretty fit as well.
Yeah, she did.
I was impressed with that, actually. I think she looks as if she could come back and play one more slam.
Oh, there's a thought. Yeah.
Simon, tell him to ask Sabalenka and Igor Swiatek about that.
I'd love to see. That was just what went into my head. Sabalenka versus Serena would be an epic game of tennis. She could probably still beat her, couldn't she?
Yeah. Okay, all right, Simon. Thanks for talking to us, man. Great Super Bowl action yesterday, and great talking to you about what happened yesterday in New Orleans. And we'll talk again soon. Most likely, though, about the ball that is round.
The real football, let's be honest, let's say it. The real football.
I didn't want to say that, but
Careful,
let's leave it there. Back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.